We're about to get into card talk right now. It is the cutoff. Is the cutoff for foolishness? You guys should have, if you're joining us on YouTube, you should have been here for this. Got Power Dragon in the stream, got a bunch of bits and subs. You'll see at the end of the video. I'll put it in. But we're going to talk Wednesday Innistrad Crimson Vow previews real quick. There was a lot of drafty stuff today. I'm not going to lie to you. There was a fair amount of limited playable stuff and not much else today. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't hype stuff. We got a number of rares that I think we can really sink our teeth into. Sink our teeth. Vampires. All right, so let's start with kind of where we left off here with Markov Purifier. I can't get over these frames. I don't like these frames. I know a lot of people do, and I'm not. You can like these frames, totally fine, but I just can't get into these frames. The actual regular version of Purifier down here looks better to me. Just in terms of like the art, but anyway, Markov Purifier is 3 mana, 1 in Orzhov colors for a 2/3 vampire cleric with lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. I don't like it. I want to, right? I want to like this. 2 mana, 2/3 isn't the best stats in the world. Lifelink is an okay ability, especially with so many abilities that trigger when you gain life in this set. We're going to see a few today. But 3 mana, 2/3, not the best stat line in the world. You have to pay mana to actually draw the card. You have to enable it in some way or another. And yeah, it enables itself, but it's not always going to attack. It's just the beginning of your end step. So if it blocks on your opponent's turn, you can't pay mana for the card. It'll often be worth 2 mana for a card in limited. I really don't think this card goes any farther beyond that format. But it might be kind of a signpost uncommon for the Orzhov Gain Life deck in limited. But even then, I want this to be more powerful. 2 mana to draw a card. And not even like triggers when you gain life, but it only happens once a turn or something. That would have been much better than this. We have to wait till the end step. If it's not alive at your end step, you don't get that trigger, right? So I don't know. This card seems powered down a good bit, and 2 mana is a lot. It's not like Mentor of the Meek or something like that. It's just not. It's not the same as a card like that. I want this card to be better, but it's probably a solid limited playable. And again, important card in a very specific draft archetype. But move on to Blood Hypnotist. This is 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 3/3 vampire. Blood Hypnotist can't block. Whenever you sacrifice 1 or more blood tokens, target creature can't block this turn. This ability triggers only once each turn because, again, fun police. I like the flavor of this card. I think it's hilarious. Arvon was ecstatic to offer his blood to such a captivating creature. Like I like the flavor text. All of it's cool. But 3 mana, 3/3 can't block. This is probably playable in limited. Again, in vampires, you're looking for a decent 3-drop at a lower rarity. This is probably worth putting in your limited deck, but it goes nowhere beyond that. I do like this, a dude can't block ability. This is actually typically very good in aggressive limited decks, but very aggressive limited decks that are producing a lot of blood tokens too. A lot of these things that you sack blood tokens and get some sort of benefit, they have a way of generating blood tokens themselves. This doesn't. Lame. Also, it can't block, and that's why, but... Anyway, Spiked Ripsaw is next. This is 2 and a green for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+3. It equips for 3, and whenever equipped creature attacks, you may sack a forest. If you do, the creature gains trample until end of turn. Now, trample is a really important ability, again, especially in limited when you're trying to bust through for damage. There's a lot of stalemates in limited. Boards get clogged up and stuff like that. So this is actually probably better in the late game than I think it currently is, than I'm giving it credit for. On its face, it's 6 mana to give a creature +3/+3. But it doesn't, it's not an aura, so you can put it on multiple creatures if the one that it goes on first dies. Like, that's always a good upside to equipments. I feel like this is one of those equipments in limited that if you have it on your side of the table, it actually goes a long way towards you winning the game. +3/+3 is huge. The fact that you can put it on like any creature and make that creature reasonably big is a pretty big deal. For something that's, again, typically pretty hard to remove. And the ability to sack a sack a forest in the late game and get through for a bunch of extra damage is probably game winning on some occasions. So I actually don't hate this card in limited. I don't think it goes anywhere in standard, but I think it's a formidable equipment in limited to have to deal with if it's, on the other side of the table from you. So I don't know. I could see this actually being a pretty decent card. Like a form of inevitability in a way. Yeah, this is a Warhammer nod. Yeah, it sounds like it looks like Loxodon Warhammer to me. It's kind of what it reminds me of. But Loxodon Warhammer giving lifelink was enormous. Loxodon Warhammer still sees play in Commander. And it's not just because of the lifelink, it's just because it's a ridiculous card. It really is. But it's definitely not Locks It on Warhammer. It's not that. So let's move on to... let's move on to Nick Cage's final form. I didn't know Scryfall was calling it that. Okay. This is... Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry. Nick Cage's final form is a 4 mana. It's 3 and a green for a 3/5 human shaman. And whenever Nick Cage's final form attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card that doesn't share a land type with any land you control, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. You can pay 5 and a green to create a 1/1 green insect creature token, put X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control, activate only as a sorcery. So domain, it's domain and standard. By the way, if you had your money on that, you can cash out. I think Paige, Maverick Girl, Popper Extraordinaire, a very, very good Popper content creator, she had said that she was thinking Domain was coming back soon, and nailed it, I guess. Good job. But in any case, when I first read this earlier today, I could have sworn that it said when it enters the battlefield or attacks. But if this is just an attacks trigger, it's not very good. Also, this seems like it would be legendary, doesn't it? Maybe it's just because it's called Nick Cage's final form on Scryfall. But this seems like it would be legendary, but instead you have to wait an entire turn to attack with it. And then you have to get something you don't have, which is easier said than done some of the time. Like eventually this is going to be bad, really bad. It's just not going to do anything when it attacks. The mana sink is cool, but it's really, really expensive. Why can't this be your commander? This just really feels like a commander, doesn't it? I'm not sure. Like I wanted this when I read it earlier and I thought that it also did this on ETB. I was like, oh, this is like a Golos. It's not. This is not as good as I want it to be. Yeah, this card is not good. Yeah. Agreed with chat. I'm not super sure that this works. I don't know. Meh. Nah, I see somebody asking, what about snowlands? I don't believe that'll work. Yeah, the basic land type will just be forest or island or swamp or mountain or plains. So I don't think getting a snow-covered land will affect it in any way. I don't think. So either way, I will say that 5 toughness is pretty good, but, you know, compare this to other green 4-drops right now. It's like we have Esca's Chariot. We have that new 4-drop with, like, Trample and Haste that I think might see some play. So I don't know about Nick Cage, as usual. I'm just not sure about Nick Cage. I got ratioed on Twitter for the first time, like, ever. Here's a fun little story to add some time to the stream. And I got ratioed on Twitter for the first time ever because somebody told a story about how, like, Nick Cage had a cat that got into some of his LSD and then opened the refrigerator. And then Nick decided that he had to do LSD with his cat because he didn't want his cat to be on LSD alone. Right? And all I said was something like, you know, I replied to someone replying because someone replied like, you know, cats can't open refrigerators. And somebody was like, cats open refrigerators all the time. And I was just like, I've had like 10 or more cats in my life and I've just never seen a cat open a refrigerator. And like, I think I've got like 2 likes and I've got like 14 replies like, well, cats open refrigerators is stupid. Your cats aren't every cat in the world. Confirmation bias. It's actually not confirmation bias, by the way. That's not confirmation bias. I didn't conduct a test with a result in mind. That would have been confirmation bias. It's anecdotal evidence. If you want to hit me on anything, it's anecdotal evidence. People keep liking that tweet. Oh, it's confirmation bias. No, it's literally not confirmation bias. It's anecdotal evidence. It's different. But this bugs the crap out of me. But I did get ratioed on Twitter, and that had a lot of that had to do with Nick Cage because I didn't believe that Nick Cage's cat opened the refrigerator and got the acid out of the refrigerator. I think that Nick Cage just gave his cat acid. That's what I think happened. but anyway. Let's move on to Reclusive Taxidermist. This is 2 mana, 1 and a green for a 1/2 human druid. Reclusive Taxidermist gets +3/+2 as long as there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard. You can also tap this for a mana of any color. Playable. This card's money. Super, super money card right here, dude. Does Nick Cage seem like the type to give his cat acid? Absolutely. You answered yourself. He does. It's true. He kind of does. Nothing against Nick Cage, by the way. I really have nothing against the guy. I like Moonstruck. What a goofy performance that is. Cher is doing her absolute best in that movie, and he is just a giant goofball. But anyway, Taxidermist is a really good card. This is a super good card, everybody. It's a 2-mana thing that taps for a mana of any color. You can play it in standard. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play like every deck. There have been so many decks where I've looked for, okay, I've got Prosperous Innkeeper. Now what, right? Like, what's my other 2-mana ramp guy? And like, they all suck. Like, they're all so bad. Like, Tangled Florahedron isn't terrible. And even like Root Coil Creeper isn't bad if you're in Simic. It's not bad. But this is just green. You can play it in like anything. As long as the deck has green in it, you can play it. So, like, you can play it in Jund, right? So I like it. I also like that it's just a random mana dork that gets bigger later in the game and has like Delirium, kind of. Like Creature Delirium. So that's kind of cool. Just, you know, man, I mean, it becomes a 2-mana 4/4. Like, if you play it late in the game because you top deck it or whatever, like, 2-mana 4/4. So early in the game, a mana of any color is actually really strong right now. Like, really, really strong. Oh, what's the power toughness? I'm so stupid. Sorry. The power toughness is 1/2. Here's the entire page. I'm so dumb. I have to remember that moving forward. But anyway, it's a hot card. Super hot card. Good in like Stick Fingers and, you know, Diagraph Harvest or anything else that you're trying to fuel your graveyard, right? Because this just naturally becomes a huge creature, blocks well, attacks well, if that's what you want. But also like ramps you into a bigger Stick Fingers, or like Diagraph Harvest is flashback sooner. So there's just a lot this card does, dude. There's so much this card does. Like, it's just going to be in normal fair decks that aren't even fueling their graveyard. Because, like, you know, draw it on turn 9 might be a 4/4. It's good. Pretty good, man. But let's move it on up to Dream Shacklegeist here. You know, this is a card I really want to like, but I'm still not like super sure about. This is 3 mana, 1 and 2 blue for a 3/1 spirit with flying. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose 1. Up to 1. You don't even have to do this, but you can tap target creature, or target creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So it's saying up to 1 is actually really good for you if you're the only one with creatures. So, but this is actually kind of sexy, right? It only has the 1 toughness, and I hate that in a format like where Spikefield Hazard actually sees like a buttload of play. But at the same time, really interesting tempo here. I've already gone on record saying this in Limited. I like things that tap stuff when they attack. And this doesn't even tap when it attacks. It doesn't even have to attack. You can leave it up to block and still tap something down, which is like really cool. Or if your opponent got like a good attack in on you, you can freeze the creature down. This can happen the turn this comes into play. So like your opponent gets an attack step in on you. You play this and you kind of get an ETB trigger. It's sort of, you know, halfway ETB trigger so long as it survives till combat. So I don't know. The card is actually kind of solid, but is it good enough? You know, does it push spirits in the right direction? It doesn't have flash, and I think that deck probably, like the ideal spirits deck right now, probably wants to play at instant speed. It doesn't do that, but it is good tempo. It is theoretically good tempo. Helps you get in damage when you need to do that. Helps you freeze down. Usually probably freezes down a creature a lot on the first turn it's in play, but you might just be trying to get in a good attack. So, or maybe it combines with Spectral Adversary in an interesting way, right? Like, end of your turn, pay 4 to 6 mana, and, you know, phase out like 2 to 3 of your guys. And then on my turn, I can just play Dream Shacklegeist and tap down the 1 remaining dude I didn't have mana to phase out. So, like, that could matter, right? Like, there's a few lines that I think are really cool with this card. And I kind of like it in like a mono blue, just mid-range kind of shell. It's not bad, but, you know, compared to Dragon Turtle, is this better or about the same? Is it a wash between this and Dragon Turtle? I think Dragon Turtle might be the better card because it has flash and it doesn't see play, but this, you get a reliable trigger every turn, so that might be better. It's hard to say. You get more damage with this because it flies. So interesting comparison, but I'm not actually sure which card is better, to be honest. Yeah, I can definitely understand why it's rare too. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fine card, though. I want to know if it's better than fine, you know? We'll move on to Skull Scab. This is a Skull Scab. This is a 2 mana. Just Dimir colors for a 2/2 zombie. With exploit, whenever a creature you control exploits a non-token creature, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Neat. So it's not whenever it exploits a thing, it's whenever you exploit like at all. So long as you exploit a non-token. And that is pretty awesome. What sucks about this is that you can't like play it, sack a decayed zombie, get a 2/2, right? Like, you can't do that. But I would contend that a lot of the creatures that you want to sacrifice right now are non-tokens anyway. Eye Twitches, Shambling Ghast, even stuff like Novice Occultist might find its way into some of these decks now that there are reliable ways to sack it. So I don't know. I kind of like this, but I'm not sure how good it actually is in the zombie deck. That said, we just saw like Graph Reaver yesterday, which is the 2-drop 3/3. You can exploit when it ETBs, and if you do, you kill a planeswalker, right? So there is some exploit interplay in the zombies deck. However, the zombies deck is another one that's kind of looking like a tempo deck a little bit, like it plays counterspells and stuff. It's probably going to play Overcharged Amalgam in the 4-drop slot. Possibly even flip a switch. It might play Meathook Massacre, so it's kind of and it plays Divide by Zero, so it's kind of a hybrid, tempo control sort of aggro deck. And I'm not sure that it has room for cards like this, but if that deck cares more about board presence, and it might because of cards like Champion of the Perished, this really supercharges Champion of the Perished, and a lot of cards in the set do. But if the deck cares more about board presence than anything else, then a card like this might be really, really good. So hard to say. Yeah, you think it'd be a classic zombie deck, which would entail shenanigans like this, but I want to like this, but truth be told, you'll never actually go up on board presence to this. And 9 times out of 10, the most desirable thing to sack will probably be a token. So I don't know. I want to like it more than I actually do in standard. In limited, I think it's probably pretty good with all the exploit stuff, going on. But we'll move on to Old Rutsteen. This is 3 mana, 1, a green, and a black for a 1/4 legendary human peasant. And when it ETBs or at the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. If a land card is milled this way, create a treasure token. If a creature card is milled this way, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If a non-creature, non-land card is milled this way, create a blood token. So you always get something when it ETBs and when it rolls around to your turn. You always get something. The best thing this can do for you is give you 2 treasure tokens immediately, right? Like give you a treasure token when it ETBs, and then beginning of your next upkeep gives you another treasure token. But if it mills through 2 lands, don't know if you're going to hit your land drop that turn. So you might be needing those treasures, right? But this, I keep wanting to compare to Skullport Merchant. Is it better than a Skullport Merchant? 3 mana, 1/4. Makes a treasure token when it ETBs, but not always guaranteed. Not always guaranteed. However, if it makes the 1/1 instead, I think that's also fine. Especially in some decks that want both treasures and board presence. And I feel like there's going to be a number of kind of aristocrat-y, sort of sacrifice-based or exploit decks that could make use of both things. Treasure tokens, because they have these big things they want to play, or they want a triple spell or something. They want to cast all the cards they just drew off of Plumb the Forbidden or whatever they're doing, right? But they also want 1/1s to sacrifice. So this could be pretty good, but I really don't like that it seems difficult to plan what you're going to get out of it. If you scry a land to the top and then play this to make sure you get your treasure token, that's pretty good, I guess. Probably, right? It also mills you once a turn, which could matter. If you're in a deck that really cares about milkshakes, this is probably King Milkshake, but I felt this way a lot this previous season, and maybe it's just because I'm growing up, but I want to be more impressed by a card like this than I am. But I will say, whether you get the treasure token or the 1/1, I don't think you'll be like too upset, but there's going to be lots of times where you really want that treasure token, or like you need the 1/1 so that you can block and not die. That's going to matter a lot. But at the end of the day, it's just a cool card, right? Legendary Peasant's cool. Going to be a cool commander, especially, again, if you can find lots of ways to set up your next upkeep or, your ETB trigger with this. Then that seems like it'll be really smooth, but I'll have to be convinced this card sees a whole lot of standard play, or is, again, just better than Skullport Merchant, because I think Merchant Merchant draws cards, It's its own sack outlet. This is not that, so just not, it's legendary. I don't know, guys. I like this card. It might just be like redundancy with Merchant, but a lot of decks don't play 4 Skullport Merchant already, so I don't know. But Sawblade Stinger is next. 4 mana, 3 and a green for a 4/3 human archer. When it ETBs, choose up to 1. Destroy target artifact an opponent controls. Or Slinger fights target zombie an opponent controls. This is really neat, actually. For 1 mana more than a Reclamation Sage, you get much better stats. You get more than double the stats, technically, of a Reclamation Sage. And you get a weird zombie fight trigger, which is dope. Like, that's actually kind of cool. This is probably main deckable and limited. It's got decent stats for the cost, although the 3 toughness is a little worrisome, but it does have relatively decent stats for the cost. And a lot of spread of playability, you know. Especially, there's going to be even situations where your opponent cares about blood tokens in limited. You bust one of those up while they're tapped out or something. So, excuse me, almost burped. Tasted of pizza. But, like, just a solid card. All things considered, solid card, and depending on the format, you know, if Zombies is a real deck and like Esseka's Chariot is still a card, then this could see actually some sideboard play, but 4 mana might be a little bit too much. But Witness the Future is next. Already looked at this card. I guess maybe we got it in English today. But Skulking Killer we've seen. Storm Chaser Drake we have not seen. This is 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 Drake with flying. Whenever Storm Chaser Drake becomes a target of a spell you control, draw a card. That's pretty sick, actually. I mean, 2 mana, 2/1 flyers. It's not actually the best stat line in the world, but it's kind of where acceptable stats start. A 2 mana, 2/1 flyer is at least okay, you know? And if you save it with a Fading Hope, you draw a card. You scry and then draw a card, actually. Actually, you draw and then you scry, in this case. But, that's pretty good, you know. But if you just target it with an Infuriate type effect, you know, a pump spell or something like that, drawing a card is so good. it's so good. And do note that there's, you know, disturb auras in this set. So when you target it with one of those auras, you draw a card, and that's the hookup. Like, that's pretty good. So actually really kind of like this card, even if it's played fairly. You know, again, just Fading it Hope back to your hand when your opponent goes to remove it. Good. It's good application of the card. So I actually think this kind of like has a slight chance. There's a lot of breadcrumbs for like blue-white or even mono-blue tempo deck in this format. And again, even though this isn't the absolute best thing for a tempo deck, it's 2 mana, sorcery speed on your turn, and it doesn't have like overcharged stats or anything like that. So I don't even know if tempo is the right deck, but tempo does tend to have things like Fading Hope and, you know, Snakeskin Veils and stuff like that. Cards like that. So could greatly benefit from a card like Storm Chaser Drake. I think it's cool. I think the card's really cool. We've seen Consuming Tide, Tauren, Shattered Sanctum, Runo, but we haven't seen this art on Runo. He is sexy in that art. That is very nice. Howlpack Piper. Okay, so we got it in English today. I haven't gotten to talk about this card yet, so we'll go ahead and do that. Piper is 4 mana, 3 and a green for a 2/2 human werewolf that can't be countered. You can pay 1 and a green and tap it to put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If it's a wolf or a werewolf, untap Piper, activate only as a sorcery, and it has Daybound. Now, Wildsong Howler's on the other side. This is a 4/4 werewolf. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Howler, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, it's quite good. It's quite good, probably. Now, honestly, Elvish Piper on the front half, but better? Elvish Piper. In case you don't know what card I'm talking about, and just so I can refresh my memory, yeah, there it is. It's a 1/1 for 4 mana. You can pay a green and tap it to put a creature from your hand into play. So the activation cost is higher. I had a feeling it was. But for the exact same cost, 3 and a green, this is mostly a better Elvish Piper. It's got effectively the same activated ability, but extra upside. As a sorcery, yeah, you can only do it as a sorcery, so it's a much worse Elvish Piper. Yeah, Piper you could do anytime. This is only as a sorcery, so it just is worse than Elvish Piper, guaranteed. But at least you get a little bit of stat boost, and it can't be countered, which is actually kind of a big deal right now. And on the other half, especially if you just like, if it's already nighttime and you play this for 4 mana, you get a 4/4 that you get to draw a creature. Like, that's good. That's pretty good. I think both halves of this card are fine, but I don't know if 4 mana is enough for this half of the card. I really don't. I think sorcery speed just, God, that hurts. That hurts a lot. But also can't be countered is actually somewhat valuable at current moment, but you know, is it as valuable as it needs to be? I will say this kind of makes it to where all your dudes can't be countered for the rest of the game, right? This guy can't be countered. If you get one activation and that thing can't be countered because you're not casting it. So cool way to slip through counter spells. That might matter. But all in all, I'm not sure that 4 mana is worth the package. I think if you could just, if this card, if this is going to sound nuts, but if the Elvish Piper variant didn't exist and it was just 4 mana for this card, that would actually be really sick. But the fact that it's going to start on the Piper variant like 80% of the time is not as good as I want it to be. But hey, I really love Elvish Piper. Don't know that I like it at sorcery speed. But 50 bits for sexy schmexy Runo. Thanks, Boogeyman. He's still on screen. How attractive is that Runo Stromkirk? Anyway, let's move on to Aerith, which just makes me think of one card. I wonder if you can call me on it. Which card does it make me think of? But Aerith, which makes it sounds like you're doing the turntable scratch noise. Aerith, it's Tormented Prophet. Is 3 mana, 1 in Izzet colors for a 2/4 legendary human wizard. If you would draw a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library instead. You may play those cards this turn. Hey, you know what this nerfs horribly, and we should have had this forever ago? Narset. Narset is still, I believe, a force in multiple formats, and was one of the most annoying cards in Standard for like 2 years. Narset for More of the Spark, the 3 mana Narset. And in formats where that card is a problem, Aerith, you've got an answer to that. You can now draw cards again, and you get to draw double cards. Screw your Narset. So like I like it's bolt proof too. Like 3 mana is really not too much to pay for this. There's gonna be turns where if you have 4 mana, you can play this into like Consider or something else that draws cards, and go ahead and get immediate value off of it for not like too much of a cost. So I kind of like it. I think it's kind of good. Yeah, Narset doesn't see much play these days. Not enough to make this much better. Yeah. I wasn't sure if Narset was still a thing. I still hear like modern players talk about Narset from time to time though. So I thought Narset might still be an issue. But if Narset is a problem on your table, on your commander table or something, punish them. Punish them. But aside from that, I'm not too sure. I mean, I want to stop looking at the card through Narset colored glasses because I'm actually pretty sure this is okay in normal application. If your opponent doesn't kill it, then on your next turn, you just get 2 cards. But you don't get to like hold them or anything, but I don't know. And like, is it spells or like a more storm centric deck that cares about its storm count or just wants to like triple, quadruple spell in a turn? Like, this seems really, really good. So, I mean, 3 mana is not too much to ask for this, and it's out of Frostbite range. So like, maybe I kind of like this card. I kind of like it. I think it might be slightly powerful. But here is a card that everyone's talking about today that I'm actually not sure if it's that good. This is Faithbound Judge. This is 3 mana, 1 and 2 white for a 4/4 Spirit Soldier with Defender, Flying, and Vigilance. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Judge has 2 or fewer judgment counters on it, put a judgment counter on it. As long as Faithbound Judge has 3 or more judgment counters on it, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. You can also disturb this for 5 and 2 white. And then, at that point, actually, I have to flip the card over. At that point, you get Sinner's Judgment. This is really what everyone's talking about. This is an aura curse that enchants a player. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a judgment counter on Sinner's Judgment. Then, if there are 3 or more judgment counters on it, enchanted player loses the game. If it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile instead, like all the other disturb stuff. So, this is convenient because we get to have both of them on screen at the same time if we do this. All right, so this takes a lot of turns, doesn't it? This takes so many turns. You have to get the faith counters on in the first half, and then you have to put the sinner counters on it or whatever. The judgment counter's on the back half of it, and that takes like 6 turns. And what everyone's been saying is Alrund's Epiphany, because Alrund's Epiphany is going to take the extra turns, right? But Alrund's Epiphany kills you easier than this without having to add another color to its deck or anything. Like, Alrund's Epiphany doesn't care about this. They're not going to try to shoehorn in double white, so I don't think that's going to happen. What this reminds me of a little bit, I mean, it seems like white does get all the good alternate, not even good, just a lot of the alternate win conditions, happily ever after. That was a white card. But sometimes white gets a really good alternate win condition, like Approach of the Second Sun. And this is not that. I don't think this is anywhere near as good as Approach. Not even close. I'm just not sure this is really a problem card in the format. Your opponent has 3 turns worth of removal to find removal for the card. And then I guess you can disturb it and all that. Like, if they don't want you to attack with it or whatever, they have turns to find removal. But if they don't want you to disturb it, there's plenty of ways to eat it out of your graveyard. There's so many ways to do that now, especially with this set. There's tons of ways to eat cards in yards. But also, 7 mana to disturb it, and then you have to wait 3 turns to win the game. They're gonna just kill you. You'll be dead. I'll be careful. You'll be dead. It's just like the cantina scene in Star Wars. You will be dead by the time this works. I mean, I guess you could theoretically ramp into it and then like play some sort of turbo fog game plan to make sure that this works. And like, we're going to try that, but I'm not seeing it right now. Card is a trap. Yeah. Another good Star Wars reference. So, I'm just not sure. Also, I've heard people talk about how it plays with Epiphany. Imagine how it plays against Epiphany. Imagine how it plays when you don't get upkeeps. Right? So I'm not too sure about it. It is in fact a tarp. I think it's a tarp. But we'll move on to Circle of Confinement. This is 1 and a white for an enchantment. When it ETBs, exile target creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or less until Circle of Confinement leaves the battlefield. Whenever an opponent casts a vampire spell with the same name as a card exiled with Circle, you gain 2 life. One of the best cards of the day. Seriously, just one of the best cards of the entire day. It's so good. It's like a Silk Wrap. Silk Wrap sounds very nice and relaxing and all that, but it was actually one of the better removal spells of Khan's block. Exile target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less until Silk Wrap leaves the battlefield. This is Silk Wrap, but better. It's just better than Silk Wrap if your opponent happens to, have vampires or whatever. So just a good card. It's a really, really good card. So, sexy stuff. Like, I don't know. It's good. It's a good card. You might not think it's a good card. Probably wrong. It's a good card. Really good card. It hits tokens. Like, yes to Circle of Confinement. I don't know if it's good in a Fateful Absence format, but this is probably better than Fateful Absence in a lot of situations. So, I mean, I guess Absence can take out Planeswalkers, but still, in every sense, this is a strictly better Silk Wrap. I said the thing. And Silk Wrap was a playable card for its entire standard tender. So, like, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this in whole. Yeah. That's a good point. You can get a little deck going, Decks that care about artifacts and enchantments. In Historic, you could play, in Historic, you now have, Portable Hole and Circle of Confinement for your, like, All That Glitters deck. I don't know. Could work. Oh, it got a Dracula card. It got Van Helsing's Holy Ward. Nice. That's pretty cool. But let's move on to Candlestick Breaker. The Butcher, the Baker, the Candlestick Breaker. This is a 1/2 human warlock with training, and you can pay 2 and a white and remove 2 counters from among creatures you control to destroy target artifact or enchantment. I am not sure that this is quite strong enough. However, it shouldn't be too hard to train it. And when you do train it, it becomes a 2/3 on that combat step, and 1 mana for your 2/3 is good, but this won't attack and train until turn 3. So on the draw, that's probably not good. On the play, it's probably fine. I also like that your opponent is in many ways incentivized to go ahead and get in front of this and kill it before it gets any bigger, because, if it swings with a 2-power dude, then it trains. If it swings with a 3-power dude, then it trains again. And then if it swings with like an Adeline later in the game, then it'll train again. So like, if your opponent doesn't take it out relatively soon, or, stave off the flow of other creatures that you're playing, then like, this could actually get out of control. And with Luminarch Aspirant, what was that voice? It could actually get out of control. With like Luminarch Aspirant around and like other ways to put counters on stuff, then you can blow up Asika's Chariots, which is actually one of the things that tends to bury mono green or mono white in the mono green matchup. Often it's like Old Growth Troll and Ren and 7 tokens if they play that card. Ranger class standing up to your Luminarch Aspirant in terms of like, you're then at parity in terms of board position every turn in terms of stats. So like this can blow up Ranger class, this can blow up Asika's Chariot, and I think in some ways that improves the mono green matchup for the mono white deck like pretty significantly. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of these in, either the sideboard or even the main deck of mono white, but I'm not sure. There are a couple of cards that really require decent human 1-drops, and we already have a couple. We just saw the new like Selfless Savior that's a human that saves humans, I think. But this is another good thing for, let's say you want to cast what is it called? Hamlet Vanguard or something. It's a thing that gets +1/+1 counters if you control other humans and stuff. So you need 1-drops to play that on turn 3 and make it a 5/5. So this could be a pretty playable thing, especially in a deck that ostensibly cares about +1/+1 counters on multiple creatures. So also plays well with Ranger class and Luminarch Aspirant. It's a fine card. I think this is actually probably fine. I think it's all right. It's okay. Anyway, let's keep moving on to Cemetery Desecrator. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 black. It kind of reminds me of a Noxious Gearhulk. It's a 4/4 zombie with menace, and when it enters the battlefield or dies, exile another card from a graveyard. When you do, choose one. Remove X counters from target permanent, where X is the mana value of the exiled card, or target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-X till end of turn, where X is the mana value of the exiled card. So there's a lot of really cool things about this. The worst thing about it is that it costs 6 mana, and 6 mana is a lot of mana, but let's look at the good things. This is from a graveyard. It's not from yours, so you get a pretty good spread of playability. A pretty good versatile look at a lot of things, and by the time you do have 6 mana, there should be some stuff in graveyards, right? So you can, when you're 4/4 menace ETBs, you'll often just be killing another creature, but you could be killing a planeswalker. You just remove loyalty counters from a planeswalker. So this doesn't say destroy target creature or a planeswalker, right? It's not Noxious Gearhulk, which I believe just casts terror when it entered the battlefield. So I don't know if this is as good as Gearhulk, but it seems all right. It seems like a decent reanimation spell, or reanimation target, rather. Especially in a deck that has a lot of milkshakes, a lot of ways to get cards into its yard, so that when it does enter the battlefield, you'll have a relatively expensive thing to work with, and kill one of your opponent's creatures. I just think it's neat. I think as a reanimation target, it's neat, but even as like a 6 mana just played fairly card in like a Golgari ramp deck or something like that, this is probably not going to take a slot from something like Blood on the Snow, but I think there's an argument for it, again, in the right builds. So I like the card. I really like the card a lot. I don't think it's noxious or anything, but I do think it's sweet. I think this card actually has a chance. Just a big dude that kills a thing when it enters the battlefield or dies. That's another. It's also a dies trigger. So like this could kind of 3-for-1 your opponent, not even counting the removal spell they have to cast to get it off the battlefield in the first place. You can run it into combat, like dare your opponent to block it, and if they block it, by the way, if they block it with like a 6/6 or something, you're still going to kill the 6/6 because it's going to die, and then you'll remove like a 2-drop from your graveyard, kill the thing. So like, this is probably good. The fact that it's an ETB and a dies trigger, this is probably actually fairly slick, dude. This is actually pretty good. Use this with the duplicator from yesterday. Oh yeah, that aura, that blue aura. That's evil. That's pretty janky and very evil, and I love it. Noxious did see some play. I see one person in chat, Autumn, with Noxious saw no play. Noxious did see occasional 1 and 2 of play in certain lists. It was not super uncommon to see Noxious in tournament deck lists. Obviously, Torrential was the one that got all the credit. But Noxious was the other one that showed up. Well, the green one showed up occasionally too. Like, poor Combustible Gearhulk. Poor White Gearhulk. I don't even remember what that one was called. That one was good too, though. That one kind of cast balance when it ETB'd. And that was like kind of fine. Verdant, thank you. Verdant showed up every now and again. But yeah, Noxious, especially in sideboards. I think Noxious was very often like a one-of sideboard card. But we will go on Yeah, Verdant was more rare to see. That's true. Verdant was rare to see. It's like Verdant saw, I feel like Verdant saw a lot of play at first and then stopped seeing as much play. Verdant Gearhulk. This is a bit of a detour here. Yeah, Verdurus. There it is, Verdurus Gearhulk. Yeah, this saw a ton of play at first. Yeah, at first this saw a buttload of play. Yeah. You could actually, I think, make the argument that Verdurus saw next to Torrential the most play. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But anyway, let's move on to Unhallowed Phalanx. This is 5 mana, 4 and a black for a 1/13 zombie soldier that ETB's tapped. This card is just all power toughness. You know, this card is just all that reaction you get when you first look at the PT box. That's all this card really is. So we don't have to talk about that. But what we do have to do, because Scryfall is a little bit slow, is go over to My Thick Spoiler and look at any other cards that may have been spoiled today past that card. Because there's a billion. Look at that. There's some Scryfall, what are you doing? What are you doing, Scryfall? Okay, so did we miss anything down here? No, I don't think we did. So let's move on. If you guys are ready, I gotta get rid of this Discover ad. Get out of here. You too, ad lurking behind the Discover ad. Okay. So let's look at Wretched Throng, which I totally read wrong at first. But Wretched Throng is 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 zombie horror. When it dies, you may search your library for a card named Wretched Throng. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Is this card good? I'm still not sure. I think it's probably not actually super great, but it could be awesome. It could be a really good like sack target or sack thing, you know. Sack fodder, that's the word. Could be really sweet sack fodder. So I kind of like it. The art is extremely disturbing. But it's not like you don't have to pay anything for the dice trigger. You just get a free Throng. Like, I don't know. It could be good. It could actually be really, really sweet. I think this probably fuels some things in Limited, especially since it's common. You know, it might even be Pauper playable. It could actually be Pauper playable, and now everyone's doing the Throng song in chat. It's like Legion Angel. Yeah, 2 mana Legion Angel. It's a dice trigger instead of an ETB trigger. I don't know. I guess Legion Angel's from your sideboard, but like, this is, I don't know, man. I don't know. Is there a card like this? Is there anything in the Thesaurus that's like this? Hold on. I feel like there's another card that's already like this. Yeah, it's Welkenhawk. It's just Welkenhawk. That's all it is. Welkenhawk is put into any graveyard from play. You may search your library for a Welkenhawk card. Reveal that card to all players. Put it in your hand. Shuffle your library afterwards. It's just Welkenhawk without flying, but it has an extra point of power. So, I mean, I would say that I'd rather have had Welkenhawk back. Welkenhawk was cool back in the day. I knew there was a card like you. I knew it. But like this could be decent in like zombie sack decks. It really could be. But we'll move on to Blood Crazed Socialite. 4 mana, 3 and a black for a 3/3 menace vampire. And when it enters the battlefield, you get a blood token. When it attacks, you may sack a blood token. If you do, it gets +2/+2 till end of turn. Probably not amazing. Really not. Hungry Ridge Wolf is 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 2/2 wolf. As long as you control another wolf or werewolf, it gets +1/+0 and has trample. That's kind of okay. Like, that's a little okay, right? Kind of. Slightly. I don't know if it's a good enough 2-drop for the Gruul Werewolves decks, because those decks already are kind of flush with 2-drops. So I'm not sure that it makes it, but this is actually, for Limited especially, like a pretty well-statted thing, honestly. But I'll move on to a card that actually kind of functions like it. This is Dawnheart Disciple. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a 2/2 human warlock, and whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, Disciple gets +1/+1 till end of turn. That's kind of all right. Kind of all right. On a lot of turns, it's going to attack as a 3/3, and then some turns, it's going to attack as a 4/4. Other turns, just a 2/2, which is bad. But still, I actually think that if you're building the humans deck, take a look at this. I don't think that it makes the cut ultimately, but I do think that playing like turn 1, 1-drop, turn 2 this, turn 3 Hamlet Vanguard, or whatever it's called, to make it a 5/5, and then swing 3 with this, and your 1-drop too. Like, I don't know. This It could be worse, but there's probably just better 2-drop humans. I mean, we know Luminarch Aspirant. We know a couple of other cards in that deck. So I don't know if this ultimately makes the cut, but there's going to be plenty of turns where you can swing with a 4/4. I mean, there's humans that put human tokens into play when they come into play, so it's not too hard to like play 2 humans just on 1 card. So like I could actually see this being fairly overstated on a lot of early turns, to be honest. Yeah, into Adeline. I've been wondering that actually, and I haven't checked it out yet. I haven't looked at this yet. Adeline does make human tokens, right? Because if Adeline makes human tokens, that's quite good. Yep. Create a 1/1 white human creature token. So, like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's really not bad at all. But let's look at Courier Bat. 2 and a black for a 2/2 bat with flying. When it ETBs, if you gain life this turn, return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. This is a recurring mechanic or like a theme, really, in this set. Whenever, if you gain life this turn. And I do think that in Limited, getting a Gravedigger for 1 less mana, same stat line, 1 less mana, and it flies is really, really good. But we'll see about enabling this. Another pretty decent, like, common or lower rarity card for the Orzhov Gain Life deck in Draft. But, outside of that archetype, I don't think it sees much play. But I do think it's a fairly strong card for that deck, especially considering it's a Windrake. It's always going to be at least a Windrake, and that's fine. That's okay. But if it ever gets a card back from your graveyard, it's really, really good. Kind of a bread and butter common for that specific archetype. So looking forward to that. But Heron of Hope is next. 4 mana, 3 and a white for a 2/3 bird with flying. If you would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead. People really love this line of text on cards. But you can also pay 1 and a white and have Heron of Hope gain lifelink till end of turn. So you can gain 3 life when it attacks or blocks because of this line of text. I believe this is the first line of text on Cleric class, and people just go, nutter butters, just goo-goo over this line of text, and I wish I was a bigger fan of it. It's also, Angel of Vitality, I think, does this. So people love this line of text, and I've just never been as attracted to it as some folks. But, 4 mana, 2, well, actually, even for 4 mana, the stat line could be much better, to be honest. But the fact that you can pump lifelink into it, that's pretty good. Throw 1 decent aura on this, which isn't hard in this environment. There's a ton of auras, obviously. Throw 1 decent aura on this, probably all right. Well, flying guy with lifelink and a fair little stat boost from an aura, I'll take it. It's probably better than it looks in Limited, if you can support it. But we've already looked at Ancient Lumberknot. This is Spruce. Flourishing Hunter is next. 6 mana, 4 and 2 green for a 6/6 Wolf Spirit. When it ETBs, you gain life equal to the greatest toughness among other creatures you control. That one word makes this card just complete booty. It would still be really bad if it didn't have that word on it. Let's be honest. But it's still a 6 mana 6/6 in Limited. It's going to gain you some life if you control any creatures whatsoever. But if this were just a 6 mana 6/6 gain 6 when it comes into play, that would be really a lot better. But no, it's among other creatures. So maybe you gain 2 or 3 life, maybe 4 life off of this, and in that case, it's not terrible. 6/6s in Limited are almost always playable. I have this weird thing in Limited. I shouldn't keep talking about this card, but it's just an off. I'm just going off. I have this thing in Limited, and you've heard me say it a million times, where I don't like 1-drops in Limited. I don't like them. But I am also from the LSV sort of school of thought, because I read LSV say this one time, and I kind of feel the same way. You can't stop me from playing 6-drops in my sealed decks, my sealed decks are always going to have 2 or 3 6-drops in them. You can't stop me, because 6-drops just win games, and I don't know if this wins the game on the spot, but it is a pretty good card if you can actually cast it in Limited. That's all I'll say. But Moldgraph Millipede is next. 5 mana, 4 and a green for a 2/2 insect horror. When it ETBs, mill 3. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Millipede for each creature card in your graveyard. So if you have 8 creature cards in your yard, you get a 10/10, it's not terrible. But 5 mana, it's obviously priced out of any standard playability whatsoever at all, But I don't know. I have an inclination to play this in the Stick Fingers deck, but that list is surprisingly tight and cannot afford a card like this. That's just a worse, redundant, more expensive Stick Fingers that doesn't do the ETB trigger, the cast trigger, really. So yeah, I won't see play in Standard, but for 5 mana, you could probably do worse than this in Limited. It gets better the longer the game goes. If you draw it on turn 14, and it's probably a huge dude. So I don't know. It could also suck though. 5 mana for a 3/3 or something would not be good. But you could mill your bomb into the yard. But that's always a possibility. I don't know. I just like the card, but shouldn't. Don't play it in standard. Up next is Kessig Flame Breather. You guys read this card yet? This is 2 mana, 1 in a red for a 1/3 human shaman. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Flame Breather deals 1 damage to each opponent. So we can play 8 Alchemists. We can play 8 Alchemist in standard, son. We can actually play 12 Alchemist. You'll see in a second that we can do that. But Flame Breather, sweet. you can play this along with Thermo Alchemist, and you'll pretty much always get the 2-drop that you want in 90% of games. You know, you'll get one or the other of them. And you just start dealing damage. If you have both of them on the table, you're just like crushing, dude. Like, I cannot wait. Somebody just said Moldgraph Millipede to fling in chat. Kazul's Fury or whatever. Like, you could try it. You could try it. This was the card. I should have guessed. Spinach, I should have guessed this is the card that made you think of me. Yeah, it's just Alchemist, dude. It can attack too. It can actually attack for damage. It doesn't have Defender or anything. Like, yeah, this is a sick card to me. But it's not. I don't think this is like a standard playable card. But I don't know, dog. Like, we got Thermo Alchemist, we got this, we got Play with Fire, we got a bunch of like decent 3 mana burn spells. Like, we got Royal Eruption. Like, I want burn to be a thing, dude. I want burn to be a thing so bad. And this is like a pretty sick 2-drop for that deck. The blocks like 2/2s and mono white. Like, give me burn or give me death. Like, I feel like mono red. I feel like that's the only way mono red can like replenish its brand. And even then people will hate it, but people don't really tolerate mono red aggro, especially after like Embercleave just kind of like scarred everyone, you know? People just hate mono red, but if you could bring back mono red burn, I think that would do a lot to rehabilitate red's image. You know, it's still red deck wins, but you can't hate burn. People do, but you shouldn't. I love me some burn, dude. I cannot wait to play Flame Breather. I wonder if that's going to be a day 1 stream kind of thing. The way things are shaping up, I don't know, man. Could be all right. Let's move on to Militia Rallier here. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 3/3 human soldier. Militia Rallier can't attack alone, but when it does attack, you untap target creatures. So you can give it Self-Vigilance or whatever it's attacking with. And that's fine. 3 mana, 3/3s are fine. Hate that it can't Exalted. It's anti-Exalted, but it's probably still fine and limited. In an aggressive deck, it probably won't ever be attacking alone, except under very specific circumstances. So it's probably playable. But Daybreak Combatants is next. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 2/2 human warrior with haste. And when it ETBs, target creature gets +2/+0 till end of turn. This could actually be worse, to be honest, right? It can swing on turn 3 as a 4/2 haste. You know, kind of a budget bin, Reckless Stormseeker in a way. But honestly, it's not that bad. Like, a 3 mana 2/2 haste isn't the best thing in the world. Like, 2 mana 2/2 hastes aren't great in and of themselves. So 3 mana 2/2 haste, not amazing. But the fact that, like, okay, I can choose to run this into combat on turn 3. If I don't want it to die, I can give my 2-drop the boost, and maybe my opponent is forced to block that to not take so much damage, you know? In which case I get to keep my combatants and they get to swing again next turn or something like that. But, you know, you can also give the combatants the +2/+0 and then threaten, like, if they want to block the combatants now, they almost certainly have to trade a creature to do so. So, like, I don't know. It's kind of not so bad as it looks, but I still don't think it's quite there, you know, especially in a world of Reckless Stormseekers. But maybe this is just your backup, you know, like Stormseeker at home kind of card. But Wash Away is next, and this is the other card from today that's getting the most talk. This is just 1 blue mana for an instant with Cleave, 1 and 2 blue. Counter target spell that wasn't cast from its owner's hand for the blue. But of course, if you cleave it, you just get a counter target spell, so it becomes a cancel. It upgrades to cancel, which you don't often get to say in Magic nowadays, but obviously the 1 mana version of the card is the important part. This is going to counter Alrund's Epiphanies for 1 blue mana. A single blue mana. So, I guess if you're playing Auron's Epiphany, this helps you beat Auron's Epiphany. That's how I look at it. Great blue answer. Yeah, it is a strictly better cancel. It is literally a strictly better cancel. And there's more than just Auron's Epiphany, you know? There are spells that get cast from the yard. There are spells that get cast from exile. Obviously, you know, flashback, disturb. There are multiple cards in this set alone, but also in this format to begin with that are mostly red cards that like exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. You know, Expressive Iteration is another good example of a card that does that. So there's plenty of foretell stuff and beyond in this set or in this format that this can counter for just the 1 blue, and they'll feel like a blowout. I think this is probably decent in like, you know, again, like blue tempo decks. I can feel that a tempo deck is coming. And this should be a relatively important piece in it. So you can also counter spells that are like cast off the top of the library with a Ranger class, or an Augur of Autumn even. Like there's a ton of things that this happens with. So just a pretty... Oh, yeah, Elite Spellbinder combo. Did somebody say that? Yeah, the Elite Spellbinder zone. Yeah, if you Elite Spellbinder a card and then they try to cast it, you can wash it away. That's very sick, actually. So, I don't know. This is a very, very strong counterspell. Extremely strong counterspell. Yeah, Kelly logs. I'm just so sick of all the answers to blue problems also being blue. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I hate that this absolutely has to be blue. It's probably one of the better answers to Epiphany in the format, and it's blue. But I will say, not every Epiphany cast is cast from exile, you know. But in that case, I guess you just cancel it. But in that case, every counterspell in the format would be better than this. So this is a good, impactful standard card that will do things. Is it the savior that we need? I don't know. I think it's a wash. Anyway, Lampholt Recontour is next. This is 4 mana, 3 and a red for a 2/4 human werewolf. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Recontour deals 1 damage to each opponent. Wait, did we just read that on another text box? Yes, we did, on Kessig Flamebreather right here. It's the exact same text box, but double the casting cost. Not quite double the power toughness, but you do get a 2/4. But when it flips over tonight, you get a 4/4 werewolf, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you just shock each opponent. That's pretty good. That's good. However, a lot of these burn decks that want to play a card like this, ostensibly at least, aren't necessarily going to want to not cast anything on their turn, especially when, like, a lot of good burn spells are sorceries. Play with Fire isn't, but, like, Royal Eruption is, Magic Missile is, Igneous Inspiration is. You know, there's a ton of sorcery speed burn spells that you really want in your burn deck, so... I'm not sure how easy it is to turn it tonight. I'm really not, but it might be worth it. It might be worth it if you're trying to do some like burn math to be like, well, if I don't pass turn and I just cast these burn spells now, I can deal like 7 to my opponent. But if I wait a turn to do that and have a Lampholt Ravager in play, then I can instead deal 10 damage to my opponent and kill them. And I think that math may apply sometimes, but end of the day, when it all really comes down, the smoke settles and the dust clears. I don't think you want a 4-drop that does this in your deck in the first place. So I think it's kind of a moot point, all things considered. Probably not the card you want, but let's move on to Ballista Watcher. I'm interested in this card for a very specific reason. This is 4 mana, 2 and 2 red for a 4/3 human soldier werewolf. With 2 and a red, tap it. Ballista Watcher deals 1 damage to any target. It's daybound. Now at night, it's Ballista Wielder. But by night, it's Ballista Wielder. This is a 5/5 werewolf. You can pay 2 and a red to have Wielder deal 1 damage to any target. A creature dealt damage this way can't block this turn. Now, one of the reasons I'm interested in this is because I am a very old school Magic player, and I remember when things like Rocket Launcher were actually playable Magic cards. Can I make it bigger than that? There we go. Okay, so Rocket Launcher was 4 mana, and it's an artifact that doesn't tap but has summoning sickness. It can't be used the turn it comes into play on your side. And if it's destroyed, if used, it's destroyed at the end of the turn. So you pay 2 mana and it does a damage to any target, and of course you just do this as many times as you want. Now, with Rocket Launcher, this was used back in the day to funnel infinite mana into I win the game. And it's always kind of interesting when I see cards like this pop up in Standard. That's what we have in Ballista Wielder. If you have infinite mana, some of it has to be red mana. But Burgy, probably, there's some sort of Burgy thing you can do, I'm sure. But anyway, it has to be red mana. But if you have infinite mana, you can pump it all into Wielder and make that I win the game. And that can be really, really important depending on how easy it is to get to infinite mana, right? So I'm not sure that there's a great way of doing it in Standard right now, but just keep your eye on cards like these, because historically stuff that you can just pump all your mana into, kill the opponent, has been used as a shady kind of combo finish in some cases. Now, this one you have to flip over to nighttime, and that's not even a guarantee that you'll be able to do that, right? But I don't think the card is actually good. I wouldn't use that word to describe this card, but do keep your eye. These mana sinks that deal a damage to any target but don't tap to do so, sometimes are more relevant than you think they are, especially if you're a jank lord like me. So just keep your eye on it, bud. Just keep your eye on it. Let's move on to Oakshade Stalker, which I believe one side is in English and the other side is not, but I guess we didn't have to. The side that's not in English just says Nocturne, which I assume is Nightbound. But Oakshade Stalker is 3 mana, 2 and a green for a 3/3 human ranger werewolf. You may cast the spell as though it had flash if you pay 2 more to cast it. It has Daybound, and then on the night side it's just a 6/3. So I actually think I like this more than I'm supposed to. A 3 mana 3/3. Okay, in limited, that's good, right? A 3 mana 3/3 is just good in limited. It just is. So it passes the spell test, the rate test in limited. So that's not too bad. And then if it ever flips over, 6/3 is not terrible either, but that toughness is really bad. I will say though, 5 mana, sometimes ambush a guy. Like, you have the choice of ambushing, and I like it. I like it more than I should because it's not actually a great Magic card, but I do like it. Now, I've already looked at these 2 white cards here. What else have we got? All right, Infestation Expert is next. Get that Discover ad off my screen. You see enough ads. I'm not going to do that to you. Infestation Expert is 5 mana, 4 and a green for a 3/4 human werewolf. When it ETBs or attacks, get a 1/1 green insect creature token, and this is Daybound. At night, it's a 4/5. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2 1/1 green insect creature tokens. This is 5 mana. This card costs 5 mana. Did somebody really just fall for Updog in the chat? Did somebody just fall for Updog? Somebody said Updog was better. And somebody in the chat seriously said, "What's up, dog?" Yeah, somebody had to say it. It's true. Anyway, Infestation Expert. This is 5 mana, but this is another one that I shouldn't like as much as I do. I mean, you get 4 or 5 worth of stats when it ETBs, and then if it attacks, then you get another one. I don't know, if it's ever nighttime, you get 2 guys. Whenever you attack, that's good. It's not bad. If it's nighttime when you play this, you pay 5 mana for 6, 7 worth of stats on 3 bodies. That could be worse, right? Bad Grave Titan. Yeah, basically. It's not really terrible, dude. But I don't think this obviously doesn't see any play in Standard, but I do think it's actually I don't know, maybe solid and limited. Gives you a bunch of sacrificable bodies and stuff. I don't know. It could be better. It could be worse, though, which is kind of what I'm focusing on here. This could be way worse. But Cartographer's Survey is next. This is 4 mana, 3 and a green for a sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put up to 2 land cards from among them on the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This card's good. This card is good. Make no mistake. This card is actually pretty hot. You really ought to hit 2 lands in your top 7. No, you might not. You might not. So if you pay 4 mana to just ramp 1 card, that's not great. But I think most of the time this is going to hit 2 lands. And what's really cool about this is that it's just lands. It doesn't say basic lands. It's just lands. You hit lands and you put them on the battlefield tap. And that could be huge depending on what you're doing, right? Commander, you get your Cradle or whatever. So that's pretty good. But there's all kinds of ways that this could make a difference. The fact that it says lands rather than basics. First of all, you'll hit more off of it. But historically, typically, the difference between a card saying basic lands and lands makes this enormous difference. So the fact this can hit any lands and will probably hit 2 is maybe worth playing. It might actually be worth playing. It ain't bad. It's not a bad card. I think the moment that you get no lands off of this, you'll never play the card again. It's extremely unlikely that'll happen, but the moment the top 7 cards of your library doesn't have a single land in it, you'll be like, oh, well, I'm just never playing this card again. It was terrible the whole time. I knew it. Anyway, let's move on to Fleeting Spirit. This is the fixed Seasoned Hallowblade. This is 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 3/1 Spirit. You can pay white and exile 3 cards from your yard to have Fleeting Spirit gain first strike till end of turn. But you can also discard a card and exile Fleeting Spirit, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So instead of indestructibility, we get a flicker. It's a long flicker too. It's not just, there and back again, a Hobbit's Tale. It waits till the end of turn to come back. So this isn't as good as Seasoned Hallowblade in some ways, right? It's not going to hit back in combat. So where Seasoned Hallowblade could kill stuff in combat and survive, this isn't going to do that as often unless you have 3 cards in your graveyard and an open mana, which is easier said than done, especially on early turns in mono white. So this isn't going to be quite as effective in a lot of combat scenarios as a card like Hallowblade was. Plus, there's also the fact that you can't put like a Maul of the Skyclaves on it forever, right? Like you could with Seasoned Hallowblade. If you flicker it, then the Maul will fall off, and you don't really want that. So, in some ways, this feels very much like a fixed Hallowblade, but I think it's probably still relevant enough to see some play. End of the day, this is probably still a pretty desirable mono white 2-drop. Right. And in some cases, in edge cases, very, very much edge cases, the ability to flicker is going to be better than indestructibility. If your opponent has like a -X kind of removal spell, then flickering is just better. So I think this is actually playable. I think it's playable, but it's probably not quite as good as Seasoned Hallowblade in the applications that we saw Seasoned Hallowblade being used most of the time. Imagine how much better it would be if we had Seasoned Hallowblade than this card, mostly because a card like Werewolf Pack Leader exists. If we could swing in with a Seasoned Hallowblade and, absorb a block from a Werewolf Pack Leader, kill their Pack Leader, and leave our Hallowblade on the table, that would be a game-changing thing. We can't do that with this card. So, there are definitely worse things about it. All things considered, it's a worse card than Hallowblade, but there are edge cases where it's better. So, not a bad card. It may end up seeing like a fair amount of play. Yeah, Flickering saves it from Meat Hook Massacre. That's actually a big thing. It's a big game right now. It really is. Yeah, Hallowblade Aetherling. Yeah, it's basically an Aetherling or a Morphling even. So that's not bad. But Child of the Pack is next. This is a cool card in terms of flavor. It's like, how is this so intimidating? But it's 4 mana, 2 a red and a green for a 2/5 human werewolf. Now you can pay 2 red and a green to create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. And then at night it becomes a 5/5 trample. It becomes Savage Packmate. A 5/5 trample werewolf. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. And of course it has Nightbound. So pretty good. I don't think this sees any play in the standard Werewolves deck, but in Limited, I think this is an extremely strong uncommon for the Werewolves deck. Extremely strong. You can, and again, I think this is more relevant in Limited, you can not do anything on your turn and just create a 2/2 for your 4 mana, and you probably got 4 mana if you cast this in the first place. So if you want it to become nighttime, you just create a 2/2, flip it to nighttime, bam, 5/5 trample. Other dudes you control get. So the thing you just created is a 3/2, like as soon as you say go, right? So this card is actually pretty decent in Limited. In Standard, no, I really don't think it's gonna be worth skipping a turn to make it night and create a wolf. But in Limited, the ability to create multiple wolves in the game and have a really decent mana sink that increases your board presence without you having to actually cast spells so you can flip it into night, that's a solid card. Very solid card. But the flavor text is funny, actually. Somebody in chat was like, love the flavor text. I haven't even read it yet. That is good flavor text. But Restless Bloodseeker is next. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for a 1/3 vamp. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, create a blood token. Sacrifice 2 blood tokens to transform Bloodseeker. Activate only as a sorcery for some reason. And it transforms into Blood-Soaked Reveler. This is a 3/3 vampire. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, create a blood token. Same text. But with this one, you can pay 4 and a black. Each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Again, decent Limited, mana sink. There's been a lot of those in this. There's a fair number of really good mana sinks for Limited. I guess to make sure those Limited games don't drag on too long and all that. And I do kind of like this as a mana sink in Limited. But I'm not sure how good it actually is. If you can sack 2 blood tokens and make your 2/2 and or your 2 mana, 1/3 into a 3/3, that's probably okay. That's probably fine, Again, it looks like a signpost uncommon for the life gain, the Orzhov life gain decks. And kind of gets cross play in the blood tokens decks, the decks that care about those. So, probably a decently playable limited uncommon in a couple of different archetypes. But again, it's one of those cards I wouldn't get too excited about outside of that format. But, again, limited players, I think, probably like a couple of things about this card in multiple archetypes. So let's move on. Let's move on to Katilda, Dawnheart Martyr. She's a ghost now. She died. I heard that she got bitten by Olivia at the end of the last story, but then wouldn't she be a vampire? Why is she just dead? It's 3 mana. It's whatever. It's 3 mana, 1 and 2 white for a legendary spirit warlock with flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires. Could have used that before he got bitten. Katilda, Dawnheart Martyr's power and toughness are each equal to... Well, actually, it did have protection from werewolves. The other Katilda had protection from werewolves. Anyway, this is a 3 mana legendary spirit warlock with flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires, and its power and toughness are each equal to the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. You can disturb this for 3 and 2 white, in which case it becomes an aura. Enchanted creature has flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires, and it gets +X/+X, where X is the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. So it just basically comes back from the graveyard. As long as you have another creature in play, you can just put Katilda on that creature's back. Like, I got you, and it gets Katilda stats and keyword abilities. Just flying and lifelink are very good abilities. But I haven't really been a big fan of any of these disturb cards in this set that are like 5 mana. Because I think you're just asking to get blown completely out. You tap out on your turn, tap all your mana down. This is my play for this turn, baby. It's going to win me the game. 2 mana removal spell. FML, it can happen. And when it does happen, you lose games. That's why I bring it up. That's why all content creators bring that situation up, because if that happens, you very, very likely lose the game. So in most situations, you can't really count on being able to disturb this profitably. But if you do disturb it and it sticks, then it's very good. It's obviously really, really good if it sticks, but getting it to stick is going to be the hard part. The 3 mana part of the card is what I'm most excited about. If you curve out, if you curve out and you go 1-drop spirit, 2-drop spirit, Katilda, you have a 3/3 flying lifelink pro vampires. The next turn you should have a 4/4 flying lifelink. That's good. The next turn it goes above a Goldspan dragon. That's good. So so long as you don't get swept and you can keep creatures on the board, I feel like this is actually a pretty decent payoff for having spirits, although it's not the payoff for having spirits. But it is a pretty decent looking creature. But all that said, even a 3 mana, 3/3 flying lifelink has proven in the past to not actually be the best stats in the world. It really isn't. So this card has a long way to go before it actually impresses me, but I don't know. If you can stick the enchantment and then protect the creature it's on, then it probably helps you win. It probably helps you win. But the next card we're going to look at is Splendid Reclamation, a reprint. This one was all Magic Origins or Battle for Zendikar? I can't remember now. But this is a card that was number 1 on my sleepers list or something. I think it was in the top 3 on my sleepers list. And it never quite got there, but there was a Splendid Reclamation combo deck in what? Historic, Pioneer, Modern, one of those formats. There was a format in which Reclamation mattered. It's back. It's got way better art now. It's 4 mana, 3 and a green for a sorcery. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, in case you've never seen this before. There are multiple ways to use this now. Again, I think this might be good in a Stick Fingers kind of deck, or just a deck with tons of milkshakes, ways to get them cards into the graveyard so that you can then Splendid Reclamation. But then you have to be able to do something with the mana. You have to wait a turn to be able to do it because they all come to play tapped. So, Reclamation has had its problems before. But, I think we had Landfall last time this was in the format, but we have Landfall again now. There are multiple Landfall things in the format. This with, Felidar Retreat. There are neat little combos with this, but I think that's all they'll remain is neat little combos. I won't be fooled by Splendid Reclamation again. I don't know that we have enough broken stuff to do with this in the format right now. Like, creature lands, get back your Faceless Havens or something, but I don't know if that's good enough for the opportunity cost of running a 4-drop sorcery that might not do anything for the vast majority of the game. So I'm not too sure. Was it Eldritch Moon? Huh? It was Eldritch Moon, of all things. I would have never guessed Eldritch Moon. But either way, Reclamation probably... I don't want to go so far as to say it's more set up for success in today's meta. I think that there are some better things to do with it than we originally had to do with it. That said, I still don't think it's good enough, but we'll see. Splendid Reclamation has the chance to be a good card. But we'll move on to Winged Portent. This is, I believe, the last card of the day. We'll reload one more time, though. But this is 3 mana, 1 and 2 blue for an instant, with cleave 4, a green, and a blue. You draw a card for each creature with flying you control, but if you pay the cleave cost, you just draw a card for each creature you control. Pretty sure this card's bad. I'm fairly certain that what you want to be doing with this card is just casting the 3 mana version of it. But for it to be truly good, it requires you to have at least 2 flyers out, but that might not be too hard. You know, this is instant speed, which I think matters. I think the fact this is instant speed matters for both the normal cost and the cleave cost, to be honest. But, you know, sort of like a Simic ramp deck, or that's like half tempo, half ramp, and we have those. This could be somewhat playable. This could be. And it could be this enormous refill. This could be just unbelievable refill. You know, imagine this card in like Rogues, you know, but Rogues is nothing but flyers. Like, imagine Liberty Mutual, get out of here. You've been here this whole time. I don't care about your stupid emu, but at instant speed, this could be better than I think it is right now. But honestly, if you do have 2 flyers in play and you play this at instant speed, draw 2, 3 mana, it's not bad. It's really not bad. If you have any more than that, if you have 3 flyers in play and this draws you 3 for 3 mana, that's great. That's really good. So maybe the card's better than I think, but there's going to be times where it's completely dead in your hand. It literally doesn't do anything, right? You just got swept. You draw this. That feels really bad. So, you know, it's like a better Winged Words, unless it's a worse Winged Words. You know, Winged Words, at least you can cast Winged Words and draw 2 for 3 mana. It's just like divination, but this, there's going to be times where you just draw nothing. You draw nothing off of this. And that makes me, you know, really skittish about playing this card at all. But I guess other times, or you're playing your mono blue or blue X tempo deck and you have 2 or 3 flyers in play, your opponent doesn't do anything on their turn, so instant speed, EOT, you draw 3. Like, that's going to feel really good, but is that too specific of a situation? Is it? Probably not, honestly, but, you know, I want the card to be good, but your deck kind of has to be built mostly to accommodate the card, but that shouldn't actually be too hard. It really shouldn't. I kind of like it. I like it. Yeah, six mana is crazy. It is a lot, but at least it's an instant. 6 mana at instant speed is a world of difference from 6 mana at sorcery speed. 6 mana instant speed is actually like doable some of the time, but you know, I imagine most people are going to say that if you have the mana to cast this, 6 mana, if you have the mana to cast this and the like 5 creatures to draw 5 off of it, you're very likely winning the game already, but that's not true. People say stuff like that all the time. Well, if you already have 4 creatures, you're winning the game. No, you're not. What are you talking about? Have you played Magic in your life? What? But I feel like this is one of those situations. Like, dude, if you had 3 flyers in play, you're winning the game. Like, no, you're not. Maybe they're just like 1/1s. Maybe they're just like Clarion Spirit tokens, and I'm still like jockeying for ground position, and who knows, you know? It's like, I don't know. Statements like that bug me. But in any case, if you do have the 6 mana, like, and you have like 2 ground creatures or whatever, if you have the 6, do it, you know, and draw your 5, whatever. Refill is really good. But I imagine this is more of a refill for, you know, decks like Rogues that play a good number of flyers, Mono Blue Tempo that plays a good number of flyers, Spirits that plays a good number of flyers, and mostly wants to play at instant speed. You know, I could actually see this being a, you know, 2 of or even more in very specific decks that play almost nothing but flyers and don't even have access to green mana. Like, I could see that happening. I really could. But again, I'm really worried the card's just going to sit there. A big old grapefruit in your hand that you're just looking at. You want to eat it, but you don't have any sugar, you know, so you just can't. You can't eat a grapefruit with no sugar. So that's kind of how this card is. I'm not too sure about it, all things considered. But in any case, that appears to be all the spoilers for today. We actually made it through those in like pretty decent time, you guys. Just an hour and a half. That's not so bad. It's not going to be the longest YouTube video ever. But anyway, that is all I've got for spoiler talk tonight. How did you guys, what's your favorite card of the night? What's your favorite card of the day? What's my favorite card of the day? Do I even know? What is my favorite card of today? We'll take you through all the cards slowly so that you can see. Because honestly, I don't know. Kessig Flamebreather? Is Kessig Flamebreather my favorite card of the day? It's definitely not the best one. I like Wretched Throng. I like Cemetery Desecrator, looks very strong to me. Aerith looks deceptively strong. I like this 3-drop Spirit. Oh, Reclusive Taxidermist. Yeah, Reclusive Taxidermist is my favorite card of the day. I don't even think it's close, actually. I'm fairly certain it's Taxidermist. But there were some good cards today. Cemetery Desecrator does look pretty sick, dude. 6 mana is so much, but like, could be worth it. It's been worth it before. Could be worth it again. And yeah, Flamebreaker. Who doesn't like Kessig Flamebreaker? This 1-drop human was okay. Circle of Confinement is really, really relevant removal, so that's a good card. Cartographer's Survey, a bit of a sleeper, I believe. So, and like Katilda's a cool card. There's some decent stuff today, honestly. Old Rutsteen, yeah, I figured people would love that card. Ava Bruck Caretaker is one I should look up. So it didn't make it into the video, huh? Ava Bruck Caretaker. Boy, I hope I'm not being led into something here. Innistrad Crimson card reveal. New werewolf is what? What you got, Dread Central? I do not want a chance to win a movie bundle. Get out of here, internet. I hate the internet. Oh, okay, so Ava Bruck Caretaker. All right, and this is an exclusive preview, so this is totally fine. Totally kosher. All right, Ava Bruck Caretaker. 6 mana, 4/4 human werewolf with hexproof. She got a little puppy. She's got a little puppy. Oh, baby. 6 mana. I'm in a weird headspace with puppies right now. 6 mana, 4/4 hexproof. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control. Daybound. It becomes Hollow Hinge Huntmaster. This is a 6/6 hexproof. Other permanents you control hexproof. Other permanents, not creatures. Other permanents you control have hexproof. At the beginning of combat on your turn, to put 2 +1/+1 counters. Oh my god, I thought it was going to be the same ability. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Good god. Oh. Wow. So on the first half, you get an Autumn Willow. You just get Autumn Willow, a 6 mana 4/4 hexproof, which really, I guess she had Shroud, but who's counting? I just want to play Autumn Willow again. The art even looks like alternate art for Autumn Willow on the front half. Like that could easily be Autumn Willow's art. But you also get extra gravy. Put 2+. So this technically has some sort of benefit the turn it comes into play on your side. It does do something when it enters the battlefield, and it's almost certainly going to get to your combat step because it has hexproof. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Plus, a lot of the creatures in mono green right now, I don't think mono green plays this because 6 mana is too much. But if you were going to play it in mono green, most of your creatures have trample. You know, Old Growth Troll and the new 4-drop has trample, and Werewolf Pack Leader can get trample. So putting counters on stuff is actually huge. And then the back half is so stupid. Other permanents you control have hexproof. Permanents you control have hexproof. Esca's Chariots, Ren and Sevens, random enchantments and stuff. And then you get 2 counters on everything, like, including this. The first ability is another target creature. But this isn't each other creature, it's each creature, so it actually becomes an 8/8 the first combat step. And then if it flips back over in a day, it's going to have those counters on it, so it's like a 6/6 during day if it gets the counters at night. That's actually sick too. Why is it 6 mana? Because it's powerful. Because this card is like unbelievably powerful. They're going to have to ban Epiphany though for this to be good, right? Like a 6 mana 4/4 hexproof seems so good, but it's such an obviously mid-range card, and like, you know, cool, you paid 6 mana for your Caretaker. That's fine. I guess I'll Alrund's Epiphany 6 times in a row. It's like, so how strong is it really? Is it stronger than Tovolar's Huntmaster? That's a really good question. Is this stronger than Tovolar's Huntmaster? I mean, you're probably not going to play both. That's a good question. I guess it depends. Like, this might not even go in a Wolves deck or anything. It just goes in, like, a mid-range deck. It just goes in a mid-range deck. Giving everything hexproof is probably better. Giving everything, yeah, maybe. Especially if you already play Asika's Chariot, you probably don't necessarily need the redundancy of Huntmaster. Tovolar's Huntmaster. That's going to get confusing. Both 6-drops are named Huntmaster on one side or another. But yeah, if you have Asika's Chariot, and you probably do, you don't necessarily need the redundancy of Tovolar's Huntmaster. So this is just better. Like, giving your Chariots and your Wrenn and 7's hexproof is silly. So silly. And like, this will do something. If you have one other creature, this will do something in the turn at ETBs. I like the card. I think this is pretty good. This is so good with Chariot tokens, yeah. Yep. Put a bunch of counters on all your Chariot tokens, and now just one Chariot token can crew a Chariot, so it's pretty sick. I think I like Wolves over 2 counters even for everything. Hexproof, though. Hexproof, I think, is the real deal breaker here. This card not only has Hexproof, but grants Hexproof, and that is the best stability in Magic the Gathering. I can say that fairly confidently. I think Hexproof is the actual best ability in all of Magic the Gathering, and it might not even be close. Indestructible, maybe, comes close, but Hexproof is a very, very good ability, and they've actually been pretty vocal about not wanting so many cards to have Hexproof. But I'm not surprised to see this. I think you can put Hexproof on a card. You can put Hexproof on a card at 6 mana, and it's fair. You know, it's okay. Stuff like Paradise Druid didn't feel fair. This feels, 6 mana Hexproof feels fair. So, what do you guys think? I think it's probably good, but I don't know if it actually sees play. But if it does see play, it'll be because of that keyword. This is a 6-drop that you probably won't get blown out playing. Right? Just about the only 6-drop in the format that you probably will not get blown out when you play. So, might be worth it. Besides Alrund's Epiphany, obviously. It's technically a 6-drop. But, yeah. I don't know. Just being in an Epiphany meta makes me think this card doesn't see any play, honestly. It's so mid-rangey. But, like, I want to like this. I really want to like this card. This card seems good. But maybe in another place, another time, another day, when there's no Epiphany, when the world is brighter, Autumn Willow can see play again. Maybe that's what. I think it's just that it is Autumn Willow. And, like, I have a soft spot in my heart for Autumn Willow, so, maybe that's all it is. But, anyway. I hope that you guys had fun tonight, because I sure as hell did. It was a good night of spoilers, and a lot of, like, fun cards to look at, too. So, I should do this more often. Come on into the streams and do some spoilers, because I always have fun doing this. But thanks for stopping by tonight. Thanks for all the follows. Thanks for all the gift subs towards the beginning of the stream. If you're on YouTube, you're about to see that. Thanks for the bits and all that. You guys are awesome, as always. Really, I have the best job in the world, and it is because of you. So thanks for stopping by the stream. Thanks very, very much. And I will see you all again very soon. I think that whenever the set is completely spoiled, which shouldn't be too long from now, we're going to get back on stream that weekend, and we're going to be doing the rate every card in the set, give it a number value. That usually takes like 4 hours. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. We just speed run through it, and we have all the fun that we can. So if you're into content where the content creator has to be extremely dedicated to make it through the content in the first place, give me a follow over here. And check out the YouTube channel at Strictly Better Mtg, or you can just put SBMTG into the search bar, and my big fat head will pop up. So I'm going to get this video on YouTube. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. I appreciate you again. And I will see you super soon, like this weekend sometime. Thanks. I don't, for some reason, don't want to end this yet, but I guess I have to. Love you guys, and I'll catch you cats later. I am Deb from The Place, as you well know. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind. Dude, what's going on? We're doing spoilers. It's Wednesday spoilers. It is Wednesday, everybody. We just got a bunch of gift subs. Thanks, Dan Doob. Appreciate you, Danny. For the tier 1 gift subs to Jason Wolfpack, MTG Flutter, Fire on Ice 91, Tab Eater, and Why Me Too Dead. That should have been my Twitch name. Why Me Too Dead. I'm gonna start saying that when we stream from now on. Boogeyman Fox with 1,000 bits. Boo! 1,000 bits for Hey YouTube. I really appreciate the bits, man. That's a ton of bits, Boogeyman. Boogeyman has been on it lately, dude. Appreciate you, Boogeyman, for all the support. My God, Rosinansis with the 5 tier 1 gift subs. Everyone waited until I pressed the YouTube button. I'm going to put this like at the end of the video, probably. But thanks for the support, Rosinanthus. That's 5 tier 1 gift subs to Antiphonix. I think I nailed your name last time. I'm going to keep saying it that way. MTG Lots. I thought it was MTG Slots for a second. It's MTG Lots. Sir Eccles, Jim Heen, and McFadden 1366. You were born in 1366 at the height of the Black Death. Like, that's, man, and you made it. You made it all the way to 2021. Congrats. I'm really impressed. But wow, that's a lot of hype. Where are we? There has to be a hype train, right? It's ridiculous that there's not. I don't understand. We're going to let YouTube know what's up tonight. They should be here. You guys should be here. Tigertron is right. Tigertron's like pretty much always right. What up, Power Dragon? That's another reason you should be in the streams. Famous people stop by. What up, Power Dragon? Good to see you, dude, as always.